Are my heroes. They're my idols. They're my mentors. They're people that I look to emulate in the political field. We've got Matt Gaetz, we've got Rand Paul, we've got Mike Lee, we've got Andy Biggs. We can't ever forget Andy Biggs, our very own. So I'm going to let them schmooze just for a second till Tyler points at me.
I think I introduced him.
Okay, so I'm introducing you. Okay, I get to the thrill of introducing a young man, and I can say that because I'm like his mom's age, and I have actually talked to his dad on the phone not too long ago. I mean, Charlie Kirk has done something that nobody ever thought could be done, okay? They didn't think that our students, that our youth, that our young people, after going through many of them public education, would ever be inspired to love liberty, to love America, and to take a stand and to do the work that it takes to make things happen. Charlie makes things happen. Without further ado, Charlie Kirk.
Thank you, Kelly. You're doing a great job. We are in the final push, everybody. We've been crisscrossing the country, but we wanted to make sure we came back home here to Arizona. As all of you guys know, this is battleground central right now. The National Democrats are pumping in tens of millions of dollars to try to turn this state. And we see what Republican leadership delivers. We're wearing the Justice League shirts where we have Amy Coney Barrett, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh. And thank you, senators, for your terrific vote last evening to give us our third Supreme Court justice in just 4 years. Look, everyone out, you guys, you have to contact your friends right now. We need to get people to turn in their ballots right now. There's been some confusion out there in the state, like how some of the national confusion in this state. We have to get to Republicans, call them, text them, knock on their door, and get them to turn in their ballot. This state is different than most states. A lot of people vote early. 2/3 of Arizona votes early. We have to get the most ambitious GOTV drive right here, right now. The president will be in Bullhead tomorrow, as well as Goodyear. And this is the final push, everybody. We have a little bit of a gap to make up. In certain parts of the state right now, Democrats are outvoting Republicans 2-1. And I don't want to wake up where all of a sudden Arizona gets declared for Joe Biden. That is not the values of this state. They think they can steal this state. And so we need everyone to turn out. We need everyone to talk to your friends, to turn in your ballot, do it securely. Go to the local county office. If you don't trust the mail, then don't do the mail, but do it as securely as you can. I want to thank all of you guys for supporting us. I'm on the radio every morning here, AM 960, The Patriot. You guys can listen to me every morning. Also doing the podcast and all these sorts of things. And that's a nice segue for me to introduce the firebrand himself. He is phenomenal and one of the few good guys in Congress. I give him so much credit because he does not take money from any of the PACs. He has refused to take money from all the lobbyists, swamp creatures. I think he is one of President Trump's favorite members of Congress. We have Andy Biggs here as well. So you think so? I don't know. I think it's a tie. But everybody, give it up for Matt Gaetz.
It's great to be in Arizona. It's great to be in Andy Biggs' country. Andy is my best friend in the United States Congress. I don't think I'm his best friend, but that's because I have far fewer friends. I'm also glad to be here with Senator Paul, Senator Lee, Nigel Farage. There are times when we have to stand together to oppose the establishment in both parties, to advance the cause of freedom and to ensure that liberty marches on. And I'm glad that President Trump is the first president, certainly in my lifetime, willing to take on both parties, willing to lead a political realignment in our country. That's why he's going to be reelected in just 1 week. Donald Trump is the first president in my lifetime not to start a new war. And I cannot tell you how meaningful that is to me. I represent the district in this country that has the highest concentration of active duty military and veterans. And I can tell you observing that what these wars do, the impact they have on marriages, on parenting, the drug abuse, the suicide rate that we see among our veterans. President Trump knows the impact of these wars, and it's why he's doing everything he can to ensure that we invest our nation's treasure in our people, and that we don't try to go and build democracies out of blood and sand and Arab militias as China's off building skyscrapers and a navy and an increasingly challenging international network to confront the United States and alter the worldview that has been productive and peaceful and beneficial. I also know that President Trump will actually stand with us against the surveillance state, because President Trump has been a victim of the deep state. So he gets it. He knows we cannot have a government so powerful as to listen to our phone conversations, collect our data, and analyze what our fellow Americans are up to. President Trump understands that we have to fight together against these great forces. The other thing I appreciate about our president is that he wants to build America up. You know, we have seen in this country for generations two parties that have competing visions for American success. And then we go before the voters and they make a selection, and whoever has the mandate then has the opportunity to go lead. But increasingly, what we've seen from the left is not a desire to make America more successful. They're willing to watch America crumble because they didn't think too much of her in the first place to begin with. I'm standing with President Trump and fellow liberty lovers because I want to build America up, and never on our watch should we allow anyone to burn her to the ground. I'm also glad that here in Arizona, you are on the front lines of the fight against illegal immigration, and I'm glad that our president is closing in on the 400th mile of wall built on our southern border with Mexico. As President Trump reminds us, we don't build the walls because we hate the people on the outside. We build walls because we love the people on the inside. Some of those brave patriots that we love are those who serve in Border Patrol and ICE. Andy Biggs brings members of Congress down to the border to observe the dangers that are brought across by the narcos. And it was really flummoxing to me that they're able to bring their baby mamas across the border and then have the next generation of cartel talent benefit from the full legal trappings of American citizenship. I think we need to build walls, but we need to build walls around some of our concepts too. And I'm glad that our president is committed to ending birthright citizenship by fraud in this country. At times it feels like the Democrats want to abolish ICE. Some of the corporatist Republicans want to ignore ICE. I'm with all of you. I want to give them the greatest technology in the world and chant ICE, ICE, baby, as they deport every criminal, illegal alien in this great country. So Charlie's right. We've got to band together. We've got to turn out every vote. And if there's someone who understands what it's like to feel like you're against all odds, but to understand the importance of patriotism and nationalism and resisting the destruction that so often is brought to our world by these globalist institutions, it is the man who willed Brexit into existence. My good friend, welcome Nigel Farage.
Well, thank you for that lovely introduction. 4 years ago, 2016, is when the revolution began. And normally, we in Britain follow everything America does, every trend. But I think in 2016, with the Brexit vote, we opened the door to that amazing victory of Donald Trump. Amazing victory. And what a remarkable thing that somebody like Donald Trump stood for the presidency, made a series of promises to the people. And you know what? He's actually kept his promises. How about that? I mean, that, in terms of restoring faith in democracy. But it's been a tough 4 years. We had every attempt in the UK to stop Brexit from happening. The globalists never give up. And here in America, every attempt was made to delegitimize the president. The Russia hoax, the false impeachment. I mean, how the man has managed to have the strength of character to get through it the way that he has says so much about him, I think, as a person. But you know, this election in some ways, and I know it's a contest being debated in America, but don't think the outcome of this matters to America in isolation. It matters to the entire Western world. It matters to the entire free world. If Biden wins, it's back to globalism. If Biden wins, it's back to mega big government. If Biden wins, it is global bureaucracy that wins over national democracy. And that really matters. And there's more than that, because actually the left have got worse in the last 4 years. These culture wars, they want to destroy our countries, destroy our histories, make us ashamed of who we are as people, and we have got to fight back against this. Just think for a moment, though, about America's place on the world stage in these last 4 years. One of Trump's most amazing achievements is there are no more endless wars being waged. How about that? And to see him walking across the line into North Korea, something that was totally unthinkable, and it began a process where America now is the global peace broker, not sending in armies with the British always in support, not bombing everybody, but getting people together. And I got to say, what is going on in the Middle East today with the rapprochement that is taking place between Israel and all those Arab states is one of the most significant foreign policy developments we've seen since 1945. The president, and I think also Jared Kushner, deserves a round of applause for a lot of hard work on that. I know that if Biden gets in, amazing to think, isn't it, that a chap that can barely string a sentence together could become the president, but there we are. I feel that if Biden wins, it's back to globalism. He'll be a hostage of the hard left. Our kids will be further indoctrinated to hate their countries, to hate patriotism, to believe that somehow we're part of a new global order. And I would say to everybody, absolutely everybody, this election is even more important than it was back in 2016. I think we've seen from the president in the last week, particularly that debate last week, where he was just so in control of the facts, of the arguments, that he is fit to do this job. And I promise you that all of us on the other side of the pond, all of us in this global movement for liberty, freedom, democracy, independence, nation state, all of us are urging and willing the president on. And I have to say, I may be a foreigner, I may have a different passport, but I am 100% committed to Trump, to everything that he stands for, and I'll be with you over the course of the next few days and weeks. And let's pray, and let's make sure our man wins.
Sergio, thank you. Hey, and give Sergio Gord. You guys remember Sergio? He's awesome. Thank you for coming. Again, I am Dr. Kelly Ward, chairwoman of our party. We are united. We are winning for liberty, for freedom, for the American way, for our very the soul of America. I think that's one thing that Joe Biden says that's true. We are in a battle for the soul of America. And I have to tell you that one guy who is fighting for that soul is Senator Rand Paul. Senator Paul, come on up.
Thank you. What a great crowd. It's getting to be that exciting time of the year. I have to say that I wasn't always Trump's #1 fan. All right. I started out in 2015 and 2016 thinking I had a better vision, but somehow his vision was bigger, louder, and got more votes than mine. I did worry though, and I worried going into the election, would he turn out to be as conservative or libertarian leaning as I wanted him to be? I worried about the courts. His history was as a big businessman given to both sides, frankly. I didn't know where he was going to be. But at every turn, he's exceeded my expectations on the court. Just amazing. I was with him, and I think Sergio was with me. We were playing golf with him, and he had picked his first Supreme Court justice. And I said, Mr. President, you might get lucky and get 3 Supreme Court picks. And he looked at me and he said, 5. And that's prototypical him. He's exactly the same in private as he is in public. He's eternally hopeful, eternally optimistic, and I think that's good for the country. You think about the pessimism that's out there now. I mean, all you got to do is turn on CNN or MSNBC, and you think this was the 14th century and the Black Plague, and we're all dying. When you look at the statistics, they are amazing. And I keep putting this out on Twitter because nobody's talking about it enough. The number of cases has doubled, but the number of deaths have been cut by 4 times. So when you look at it, it's like an 80% reduction in the death rate right now. All they talk about is the incidence. Yes, more people are getting it. Probably people here have either had it or know people have had it. All the college kids are getting it, ran like wildfire through, but that's not the story. And that is Mother Nature. And when Meadows said, we're trying to get the vaccine, we can't, the virus is doing what it's doing. It is. It is regardless of lockdown. No matter what you do, the virus is running through our society until we get a vaccine. Doesn't mean we're not trying. I think the president really has tried. They've tried to manufacture ventilators. They're working on the vaccine, but until it happens, the virus is getting its way. But the good news is something's happening, and it's dramatic, and nobody's reporting it. The death rate is plummeting. Either the virus is getting less virulent, which is part of it. Younger people are getting it, and they're healthier and fighting it off more than the first wave of people. But it's extraordinary how the death rate has plummeted, and you wouldn't notice that if you're watching television. But I think the president's done an awesome job with fighting the virus, but he's also done an awesome job with the courts. One of the things that motivates me a lot, and if you meet people that are still uncertain who might vote for a third party, you need to tell them this. The issue of war. The issue of war is incredibly important. It's very important to me. One of my best friends at home, his son is now just christened as a second lieutenant. He's in the infantry. He'll be on the front lines fighting. And we're very proud of him, and he's willing to fight, and he'll do what he's told. That's what you do in the military. But I don't want to send him to a war unless there is a mission. The mission's been gone for at least a decade in Afghanistan or more. And this is the difference between Biden and Trump. Biden voted for the Iraq war, and now says, well, the reason I did was because George Bush lied to us about the intelligence. So that's true, but it's still not getting the full picture. The Iraq war was a mistake because when you change regimes, when you get rid of a government, you have a vacuum and you have no government, you get more chaos and you get more terrorism and you get the opposite of what you're really trying for. So when we toppled the Iraq government, things got worse. Regime change doesn't work. And the reason Biden didn't learn the lesson, Biden and Obama immediately went in and bombed Libya into oblivion. And people say, well, yeah, because we think, they're going to get a good democratic government. Thomas Jefferson doesn't live in Libya, all right? They are not going to elect Thomas Jefferson. It's chaos. We're never even sure from one day to another who we're even supporting in Libya. But it's a disaster. Gaddafi was a disaster. Hussein was a disaster. But getting rid of him didn't make the world a better place. Libertarians understand that argument. Some of them are still thinking about voting libertarian. Some of you might. But the thing is tell your friends who are thinking about voting for a third party, Gary Johnson got like 4 or 4.5%. He got a lot out here. And I like him. I know he's a good guy, but it can be the margin of difference. Last time Trump won here, but it's closer now. It's going to be harder for Trump to win. And if 4.5% of the public vote libertarian, Trump probably doesn't win. So we do need to convince those who are thinking about voting for a third party. Trump's not a perfect libertarian. He tells me he's all done. I'm more libertarian than you, Rand Paul. It's not exactly true. But the thing is he has many libertarian instincts. On war, he definitely does. Matt and I were with him at Dover Air Force Base when 2 of our soldiers' remains were brought home. And it was a very sad occasion. It's the only time I'd ever done that. And he gets it. And he just kept repeating, the war is senseless and we've got to come home. But we don't have a mission there. And he wants to do it. But sometimes it's a step forward and a step backwards. I told him John Bolton was a disaster from the beginning. I tried to block John Bolton. I blocked him from being Secretary of State, but he still got appointed. But the president, if he were here, would tell you it was a big mistake. Bolton was a terrible person in the end, very disloyal, and stabbed him in the back. It was a terrible pick. But having Bolton up there slowed down the removal of troops in Afghanistan. When you talk to the president, Mike and I have, Matt and I have, Andy, he does want to bring the troops home. We got to have good people like us to keep pushing him. But there's no question that if we get Biden, we get more war. On another issue that's important to libertarians is leave me alone. Don't put our kids in jail for drugs. Not that we're encouraging people to use drugs, but look, almost everybody I talk to here, you'll tell me you've got either a nephew or a cousin or a daughter or a son who somehow got involved in drugs. But we don't want to put them in jail for 25 years of their life because they made a mistake. A lot of people, I think it's a mistake, make these mistakes when they're younger. They kind of grow out of it. But we passed the First Step Act under President Trump. We couldn't get it done under Obama. And it is actually making a difference. There's a man in my state by the name of Matthew Charles. He was the first person to get out. And he saw me at the Urban League about 3 weeks before we passed it. And he saw me on television say that it was going to be retroactive. And he said that was the first time he had this glimmer of hope. He'd been in jail for 20 years and he had 13 more years for a nonviolent drug crime. President Trump has gotten it and gotten it done. So I think we've got a lot to be thankful for with President Trump. He is not the perfect libertarian candidate, but his instincts are very good, better than any Republican president in my lifetime. And I think we've got a real chance here. But if you have friends who are thinking about voting for a third party, or if you are thinking about voting for a third party, it's your vote. You make your decision. But at the same time, it's going to make a difference on who we have as the president. And if you want to see socialism up close and uncomfortable, that's what we're getting. That's where we're going at a very fast leap if we don't. This is the greatest country. When you look at the progress of humanity over the last 200 years, when the president says he's going to make America great, because we were great in the first place, because of the freedom we were left, because we were largely left alone. And I think we can keep that, but it is important. It is important who is the president. And I think rather than cast your vote for a protest, I think I'd cast your vote for the much better the candidate, and that is Donald Trump. Thank you. All right. Oh, no great Kelly.
Give Andy a shout out.
Well, we did. Andy Biggs knows we love him because he's a man. Yeah. But it is my pleasure at this time to, we're not going to get into the who's more libertarian thing. That's Trump thinks he's more libertarian than both Mike and I. But I can tell you the two most libertarian members of the Senate are Mike Lee and I. Here's my friend, Mike Lee.
The two most libertarian members of the United States Senate, that's like being the tallest buildings in St. John's, Arizona, where my dad grew up. In the world of the single-celled organism, the planaria worm is king. Don't forget that. It is a pleasure to be with you in Arizona today. I was born here. In fact, my family lived just a few miles from here. We moved away when I was a year old, with me kicking and screaming, I'm sure. But I love Arizona, and I love my friend Andy Biggs, just to give him another shout out. With the way things have unfolded with the Bidens, I'm going to have to give up my nickname for Andy, which is, the big guy. But we can't call him that anymore. It has other connotations now, so we'll have to come up with something new. But we love it. Government. Government is something that people have started to worship. It's become their god. It's like the new idolatry. People put an unnatural, almost religious amount of faith in government. And this is, of course, very, very wrong. Separate and apart from all the biblical admonitions that it transgresses quite plainly. It's ignoring one simple fact, which is that government doesn't love you. Government can't see you. Government doesn't know or care who you are. In fact, government has no emotions, no morals at all. It doesn't mean it's unnecessary. It just means that it is a thing. It is a very simple thing that we often dress up too much. All government is the organized, official use of collective, coercive force. That's it. And that's my fancy, overly lawyered way of saying guys with guns show up to make you do stuff. That's all government is. And so we sometimes get confused about what it's supposed to be used for. It's really there to make sure that we don't hurt each other or take each other's stuff, and to make sure that people from other countries can't come inside ours and hurt each other or take our stuff. The minute you start departing from that, bad things happen. In fact, we had an experience with our national government when it was based in London. Sorry, Nigel. It didn't end well, because that government knew no boundaries around its authority. It wasn't just the idea of having a monarch. That was bad too. But it was mostly that we were subject to a large, distant national government that taxed us too much, that regulated us oppressively, that was so far from the people that it was slow to respond to their needs, if ever it did respond in the first place. And it knew no limits around its purpose or its authority or the harm that it was inflicting. That is, of course, why we became our own country. That's why we're not flying the Union Jack. It's because we believe in freedom. We believe that government is necessarily limited because government's dangerous. It necessarily encroaches on our individual freedom every single time it expands. And that, my friends, is why we have this. This is a rule book that tells them what they can and can't do. Now, just as important, even more important in some ways, the Bill of Rights, very important. Don't tell you, where to go to church or whether to go to church at all. They can't tell you what to say or not say or print or not print in your newspaper. They can't force a confession out of you to rat on yourself. Those are all important, but they don't mean anything unless you've got structural protections in place. As Justice Scalia, by the way, Justice Scalia's former employee at law court just got confirmed last night. I just have to say that. He used to say any tin horn dictator anywhere in the world can have a Bill of Rights, but whether it means anything, whether it's worth more than the paper it's printed on, depends on whether you've got structural protections in place to make sure no one person or group of people gets access to too much power. You've got the vertical protection of federalism that leaves most of your power at the state and local level, and the horizontal protection of separation of powers that divides our federal government into 3 separate branches. We have deviated badly from both of those, and in so doing, we've caused power to shift away from the people in 2 steps. First from Arizona to Washington, then within Washington, from the people's elected lawmakers, good guys like Biggs, over to unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats. That's made us less free, it's made us poorer, and it's got to stop. How then does this relate to Donald Trump? Well, along comes Donald Trump, and he said, I want to drain the swamp. The only way that we're going to drain the swamp is by making it less powerful, by making it less big. It took me a while to get there. I was a latecomer to the Trump train. I mean, really, really, really late. About us, well, yeah, I was just very late. We'll leave it at that. Yes, exactly. I had a good conversation with him when he got elected to office, and I said, look, we're going to work together now, and I'll be your greatest ally insofar as you promote federalism and separation of powers. In my small town of Provo, Utah, we speak of little else. Insofar as you don't, we won't. And you know what? He's fought for it at every step of the way. He has been the most dovish, least hawkish president in my lifetime, ever. More than any Republican, more than any Democrat who's served in modern history in America. He has kept us out of wars. I remember the first time I made a pitch for him on criminal justice reform. I'd been working on this effort for about 10 years. Rand and I had it. Initially, it was just Rand and me and a handful of very liberal Democrats. We sat down with the president. We talked him through it. He saw it immediately. I told him the story about this guy in Utah who got 55 years for selling 3 dime bags of weed. Not really our best moment as a country. He understood why that was a problem. He understood why we were taxed too much. And he brought our taxes down. Not enough still, but he's doing the best he can. For every regulation that's been put through, he's taken down multiple regulations in this government. The Federal Register, the annual cumulative index of all federal regulations that they're released, has gone from about 100,000 pages a year to about 60,000 pages a year under his administration. And he's just getting started. So are you ready to join with me and Rand and Matt and Andy and Nigel in ushering in 4 more years of draining the swamp? Or are we going to win the great state of Arizona? We're going to make sure that Joe Biden cannot make America great Britain again. Help me re-elect Donald Trump as President of the United States. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Lee. I also heard that Senator Lee is the nicest senator. I don't know. You guys will have to fill me in if that's true, false, or otherwise. I will tell you that we've got some of the smartest people, not just in American government, but from around the world, including Nigel, that are right here with us today. You all are, you understand what's going on. When I watch those Democrats that are your colleagues in the Senate and in the House, I mean, some of them don't seem very smart. So I'm going to pass it over. Tyler, are you somewhere? Okay, we're going to wrap it up. All right, we're going to wrap it up here. Sergio says we're wrapping it. We're wrapping it. We thank all of you for coming. Make sure that you get out and vote. Friends don't let friends vote Democrat. And in this presidential election, they don't let friends vote third party. So vote for President Trump, vote for Vice President Pence, vote for Senator McSally and Republicans all the way down the ballot so that we keep Arizona great and we make America great again. Thanks. Have a great afternoon, guys.